Welcome to a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff DeForest, the handsome gentleman on the other side of the screen there. That would be one Mike Jones, who's chomping at the bit. And one thing I love about you, Mike Jones, is you love betting conspiracy theories and then the extrapolation on that. What's going to happen in the future that could be of a radical nature, that might be a movement on the behalf of the people to
Mhm.
turn this shit around? What I'm talking about is when there's a blatant screw job. Now, I don't know that there was enough money wagered on the Tank Davis Lamont Roach fight that took place over the weekend. Tank Davis, a prohibitive favorite in this fight. He's minus 1,800 to win 100. Would you ever do that? Would you ever put up 1,800 to win 100 on anything, even the surest of things, even Secretariat racing against a bunch of cheap platers at Beulah Park? I mean, would you ever put up 1,800 to win 100, Mike Jones? How are you, by the way?
Good, very good, good weekend. And no, I would not do that. I just feel like the risk is way better than the reward, or it's just no,
And it's
no.
boxing. Anything
Yeah,
can happen.
right.
Literally, the line of Emmanuel Stewart, and it did in this particular fight.
Yeah.
Just to make it brief, because I'm sure I don't know how popular that was. It was a pay per view event, but
Mhm.
what does pay per view really stand for anymore? I mean, everybody's gone O.J. Simpson. Remember when he was pirating cable TV?
Yeah.
I mean, he gets off on a double murder, where it's pretty obvious that if it wasn't him, who was it? I guess that would be the way to look at that. And then what does he get nailed for? Pirating cable TV. But uh, now everybody you talk to says, "Oh yeah, it was pay per view," but I found a link somehow. Are we missing out, being the geezers at Caesars that we are? Or, I mean, or is everything just available no matter what the paywalls are supposed to be?
One of the fascinating things about the modern day younger gambler is they want the plus. I found this happening as a trend for like the last 15 years where, you need more favorites as a bookmaker than you've ever needed before. People want to bet the underdog. The money lines are shrinking. If you look at the NBA, what was equivalent to a 260 money line, you might get 210 or late 210, 220. So the value is betting the favorite because people want to take the price. So in that particular case, if you're worried about a fixing, put 100 to win 1,000 and hope that the fix is on with the dog because someone
Yeah.
else bet the dog to come in there and say, I'm going to put 300,000 to win 2.7 million because I want the 9-1 in my set. So if the fight's going to be fixed, you're not going to fix it to the 18-1 shot because he should win anyway. The fight will be
I
fixed
don't
for the
know.
dog. So you might want
Yeah,
to bet.
I don't know that this was fixed. It just was
No,
a
no,
blatant mistake by an official, where and it leads to an interesting question because the referee should have counted number one. Tank Davis taking a knee in the ninth round against Lamont Roach, the 9.5 to 1 underdog in the fight. I mean, this is Buster Douglas esque. Ali was less of an underdog when he fought Sonny Liston, and everybody thought he was going to get his head rolling all the way down to Miami Beach at that time. So if you did take a shot on the underdog here, you were very brave, but I'm with you. I mean, if you have a chance, you don't know what's going to happen. A guy could have a clash of heads. It causes the ref misses it. It causes the fight to be stopped on cuts. Anything can happen in
yeah.
boxing. We know that. But guy takes a knee right in front of the ref. He starts a count. Then he waves off his own count. Guy goes to the corner. Automatic disqualification. Cornerman comes up on the ring apron during the course of a round. And anybody who had Lamont Roach in this fight had to be thinking, my God, who can I appeal to? And now we know there's never going to be a class action suit by bettors who feel like they got screwed. But in a blatant violation and ignorant, approach on the rules, this guy, Steve Willis, who's a credible referee, ends up costing any of these bettors their chance to make a nice score. So, when is it going to happen in an event of even bigger magnitude, like a Super Bowl or something? Where, I mean, never mind January 6th and the assault on the Capitol building. This will be an assault on Las Vegas.
Or
The
or the
entire
rest.
country will be going there. Every little kid that's betting 10-team parlays will be in this march. It'll eclipse anything we saw at Martin Luther King. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I go back to tennis. Tennis, which is the number two bet sport in the world. I think there was a Russian group that was
Yes.
involved with a couple of Russian players that all of a sudden now, if you default, it's a no bet. In a situation like that, can you make it where there should have been a DQ on the ref? Can you make it all of a sudden all tickets are off
I want
due
my
to
money back.
default of something that happened that would have changed the course of the result? So I think that's happened. I go back to what I said when this started getting legalized, 2018, and I'm around a bunch of golfers. When is it going to occur that a guy's going to be over a putt and he's got over under 71 and a half and that guy's lining up that putt and he screams, miss you, motherfucker, something happens where the world hears it and he's just doing it because he's got a ticket and he shoots a post on Instagram. You see, I control the golf, and especially if it happens at the Masters where everybody's the most prim and proper, one of the
Imagine
best
that. Yeah.
places I've ever been. Can it happen there where a
Just
guy
shoots
like
off a
you,
bazooka into the air as the
right?
guy's
You
about to
just that's what I thought it was going to come to, especially on these one-on-one matchup type bets where you can
what
have a
could they do in that spot?
guy. How
I
about
mean,
that?
literally, I mean, this
Boxing,
guy just sets off an ash can or, one of those
yeah,
old fireworks that we used to use in Brooklyn. And
right.
right as you've got Jordan Spieth about to take over
Yeah, I mean,
the
I
title.
just came up with that, and we were talking about a roundtable with guys talking, and I said, "This is might happen." And then now you start seeing the 16th hole
Oh, that's great.
management
Yeah.
where they go crazy if there's a hole in one, and they get crazy, and then you start to see a little bit of that. After COVID, I was up at the PGA, which was won by Joe Highsmith, who had a
This guy
remarkable
came
60.
out of the clouds. You were up there for that?
No, not this week, but I was up there during after COVID where everybody was just out for a party. And the
Yeah.
marshals were telling me, "Can we keep quiet? Can we keep quiet?" I remember some guy telling a joke at middle of Steve Stricker's backswing, and the caddy screams at the guy as he's not even paying attention. He's got a bunch of drinks and happens. So I felt like Waste Management has let golf turn into this game where Live makes it where there's music and all this stuff. Are
Yeah.
these
What
distractions that
happened to
players
Liverpool,
got to
by
get
the way?
used to that can affect bets? That's what I thought. I just think there's going to be more influence affected on an individual matchup by a better than there would be ever before. So
Does the Live Tour still exist? You hear nothing about it.
they
Ever
got a
ever since
deal
they
with Fox.
and has anybody seen Greg Norman anywhere? Some
No,
mysterious disappearance from the
yeah,
societal scene. Hey, if you guys are betting, Bet Online is the most trusted betting platform. Your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. They have the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA, college basketball. We're going to get into some of that. Got some bracketology on tap here, and of course, everybody's going to be speculating to no avail, Mike Jones, because the cleaning lady is going to win the pool. But everything from NBA, college basketball, the NHL, UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered. All the latest odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, a lot of games being played over the weekend. That was a catastrophe, though, and it led me because you're one of these guys that I think one day is going to be leading one of these marches, and very much like the attorney that you see in every case that involves some kind of societal issue. It'll be Mike Jones out there parading for the common man and saying, "Hey, we're tired of getting screwed. I mean, if you're going to have bets on these things, be responsible when something goes haywire like that. Go ahead and at least give the sucker his money back." That would have been,
yeah.
I mean, something's got to happen along those lines. All right, the college basketball scene, and this struck me, Mike Jones, and you are very much a body language interpreter. All right, so I see this, and this is going to disgust a lot of people because it points an arrow straight at the chalk. But Auburn, I watched them wipe the floor with Kentucky at Rupp Arena. Adolph Rupp was rolling over in his grave, as they say, as he's watching this absolute slaughter taking place with Auburn. And then after the game, this left an indelible impression with me. Bruce Pearl, who we know is a bit of a character, but I mean, you're always looking at this, whether the team is all in or they checked out or not, and try to take advantage of it, factoring a little emotion into betting and gambling equations. I have never seen a team, unless I am just terrible at reading levels of sincerity. When these guys were bouncing up and down with Bruce Pearl in the post-game celebration, I'm just looking, going, could a team be any more in sync and unified in its objective than Auburn is right now? And then on top of that, they keep acquitting themselves on the court there, pounding people into, as Mike Tyson would say, Bolivian.
Yeah.
Are we overlooking the obvious that Auburn is going to breeze to this title? Or, I mean, we know it's never easy. There's always that one game, but usually in the second round against Baltimore, Eastern Shore, or whatever, and your life and death to win in overtime. But what do you think? I mean, do you buy into the fact that this picture could have told me that Auburn is, if not the among the very top of the list of teams that are in unison with their head coach?
Well, I kind of agree with you. You look at that. There's a lot of emotion in the game. You want to get a team that's focused. I think St. John's is along the same lines. I think there was a clip out there where Patino challenged them what they're raised. The basketball is
Oh,
the
that was
game of
great.
life, and that clip resonated with a lot of people I know, and just how society's different. This isn't about a participation trophy. This is about winning games and being successful and moving on to the next endeavor if you're not going to be a pro basketball player. So I think it's getting the people to buy in is what really is the most important thing in coaching now. I don't know, want to use the word culture because it's overused, but I really think that the communication level and the understanding between the coach and the player is something that you want to look for in all this. So this is where I'm going to lead you, where Bruce Pearl leads it to St. John's. I don't know if St. John's is the most talented team, but they're not going to get outworked. They defend, they rebound. If they could get hot with the jump shot, I think they're going to be a really, really tough out. The number two thing is, I think there's a ton of pressure applied by ESPN on these number one seeds. We saw Virginia lose to Maryland, Baltimore County years ago, a couple years ago, and then the next year they win the national title. Who wants a number one seed? I don't. I don't want the pressure of having that on my kids. I would just say, let's play the game out, do what you want to do, and we get accomplished. But when you start saying you're the best, or everybody got you, and all that media hype, I don't know if that's great for the kids today because there's so much more distraction than just what you get in a 2 hour practice. So my thought is Bruce Pearl's got this team rallying around him. He's quite the character. I remember seeing a game when he was at Tennessee where he had his shirt off in the crowd and the student body going nuts, waving
That's
around.
the thing. Yeah.
So he relates to the kids, and I think that's what you have to do today. And I heard Patino yesterday on CBS talk about the NIL and all the different ways of coaching that are different than it was 20 years ago, and you have to adapt. In the old Moneyball scene with Brad Pitt when he said "adapt or die," this is where it's headed. And whether you don't like it, like Nick Saban and Tony Bennett who leave, or Jim Larinaga who leave by coaching because it's a tougher run as you get older, some of these young guys, maybe this is what's going to happen. A younger coach and a younger team and a guy who can buy in and sell it. That's what it's going to take. So right now with the SEC, and I'm listening to these people say, this is the greatest basketball conference ever invented. And now you have potentially 14 teams that are bubble or in Joe Lunardi's bracket. That is unheard of. You got to say 14 and 12 team or 15 and 13 team because they're 5 and 11 in the SEC and only lost one game outside the SEC, that all of a sudden you're going to put in 14 teams in one conference, the negative of the super conference. I don't like to see that, but this is where we're
Hey,
headed.
if they're deserving, I mean,
Yeah,
and then you have to think about how tough it is to have the kind of record that Auburn's compiled, though, when
right.
they're being challenged by
Mhm.
a dozen teams in their own conference
Yeah.
that could give anybody trouble. What about Duke? What do you think about Duke going in there? And now I used to despise Duke. I don't know why, and I eventually became a little bit more endeared to Coach K than I previously had been when I rooted for Duke to lose at everything and get trampled in the process. And then I had an interview with Krzyzewski after he had been, I guess he was the head coach there of the U.S. Olympic team. They won a gold medal. This is several years ago, but
Hmm.
when Krzyzewski was coaching, and he came on the show. I didn't feel like asking him about any sneaker deals or any of the under the table capital that he's made over the years. That has made him a very wealthy guy, and deservedly so. He was the best among the best at what he
Hmm.
did for a long period of time. A little whiny. No, I mean, was that it? Was that what we resented as sports fans about Krzyzewski? Just complaining a little bit. Just one of those guys that you wanted to throw a punch at when he started crying and you were playing stickball
Yeah.
in the streets. But anyway, he was so compelling about the game that I started to like the guy. Now, John Shire is a very likable guy, and yet I still find myself rooting against Duke. It would be less of a burning desire to throw up if Duke won this year as opposed to previous years, in my opinion, for me anyway, just from a personal standpoint.
Hmm.
But what do you, Mike Jones, make of their chances here? Of course, they have Cooper Flagg, who's touted as the best in college basketball. I'm not sure there aren't others, that are also equally important to their teams. But what do you think?
I'll bore you with a Cliff Notes conversation, and it goes back to the 1999 tournament where I was at a party and I got to meet Jim Boeheim. And we were all talking about the potential of one and done coming through. And I asked him, wouldn't you want a kid who was a 3 or 4 star player that you could have for 4 years in your program instead of that kid who's one and done where he's a 5-star great talent and that's and then he's gone in 1 year and then you got to redo the whole thing. I would think, don't you trust your coaching? And he nodded to me and he says, Mike, that's an interesting observation, except you need the one and done because you can't win without that elite player. And fast forward 2 or 3 years later, he gets Carmelo Anthony and pulls it off. So that's the theory. They got the best player in the country, so they're going to be in it to the end. And if he can create his own shot, he can do things that can get 20 and 10 every game in the tournament. That's a bonus. Teams got to work at that and try to defend that, and it's a little bit of a distraction. But Duke's got enough of the players around him that should be heard. I know the kid Proctor didn't play last week, and all of a sudden they still blow out at Florida State. So it's that's kind of where I think. I think Duke's going to be in it to the end. I think what you'll see is, as much as we all love to see the underdog in the tournament, is the great story of years past, where you always want that sleeper, the NC State or the Villanova of the world, going back to the '80s and the champions that won as a huge underdog. It's hard to exist. I remember a couple years ago, I think I bet every underdog in the first round and lost 80% of the games. Only three underseeded teams
It
won.
happened to be the 1 year you did it.
Yeah, it was like three underseeded teams.
Yeah.
Three underseeded teams won. That's when I said, you know what? They're trapping the good player because the favorites are the side to bet because they're trying to beat the guy who's that underdog better for a while. So that's the whole thing I see. I agree with you on Bruce Pearl. I agree with you on Duke that I think these teams will probably make their runs.
I mean, the spirit these guys, we see it all the time. I mean, you see coaches come in the locker room and they're spritzing them with champagne and water bottles and whatever they have in there. I'm just looking at a picture, and I know you're big on horse body language like I am. Where, I mean, I don't know if it's as simple as if the horse takes a shit in the post parade, that's the one to bet on, but or if there used to be another theory out there that if Braulio Baeza, the great Braulio Baeza, when he was a jockey anyway, I think he's somewhat frowned upon as a steward, which he is right now in New York. But that if he stood up on the horses, they came out on the tunnel. I don't know. Were you around Aqueduct at the time?
No.
Might have been a little before your time. But if he stood up in the saddle as the horses made the turn after they came on the track, it was a go, absolute go. And you could press the button on whatever it was that you wanted to unload. Although I don't know that you would ever want to take 1,800 out of your bankroll, peel off 18 sticks at the window to win $100 in an event that's as fragile in terms of outcomes as boxing would be. All right. Anything on the NBA before we get into some picks here?
Yeah, the NBA week wasn't bad last night. My Phoenix Suns, who they're the bet against, were started off
horrendous again last night.
Yeah, Minnesota starts off as a dog, goes then to be a 1.5-point favorite as Julian Randle comes back and plays. And, the Phoenix has got their horses, but I think there's something wrong there. So caught a winner last night. Then I decided to throw around friends of mine with Cleveland thinking they had such a big win on Friday. And I forgot they were playing my Blazers, who were missing Jeremiah Grant and Ayton was out. But Donovan Mitchell got some rest, and it showed that they never were covering the game at all. So I'm going to lean back toward my Blazers again tonight against the Philadelphia, who gets an emotional win Saturday night. A game where Jimmy Butler sits in Philadelphia, you could see the language wasn't there. Now, what does Jimmy Butler mean to a game? Was he only a point difference? Went from 8 to 7 and held at 7 to tip time. I don't know about that. The guys, you look around watching that game, and you could see right away that Philly came there ready to play a nationally televised game, and all that. So maybe that wears off tonight, and maybe Portland comes in after playing an overtime game where no one really likes it because Philly should be a bigger favorite, and the fact that they're only 3 makes me like Portland a little bit more. So I might be on the Blazers, back on my Blazer train.
All right, very good. You've been timing these Blazer selections very successfully through the last couple of weeks of the season. 6 weeks to go in the NBA regular season, and people are making a big case now that the Lakers are a team to watch. I'm not sure that I'm totally buying that because I'm still thinking, don't they need to do something in the middle there to make up for the absence of Anthony Davis? It doesn't appear necessarily to be the case.
No.
As they beat the Clippers twice over the weekend and are on a phenomenal run here. I think since the Luka trade, maybe is it possible they're 9-2 since that, or is that too many?
I think games? That's a little much. I think, but I think they won about one game. Yeah.
And Luka started out a little bit slowly there because he was training on birthday cake and Budweiser's, but he's
here's the thing with the Lakers. Yeah, here's the thing with the Lakers when I watch him. LeBron looks energized. You know, he's probably as phenomenal athlete, like him or dislike him, that you'll ever see at 40. He's
He
putting up
looks like he just
numbers.
came into the league.
Yeah, and he's lighter. He looks faster. I mean, I just go back to the half court throw for an alley oop that LeBron had. That he was not. I wouldn't call it basket hanging. It looked like he just beat the guy down the court, but he caught the ball midair, a half court pass, and laid it in like an alley oop. And I'm like, man,
I'm
look
with
what
you.
he's
He's
doing.
flying around, man.
Look at what he's doing. Kareem looked like at 40 could barely get up and down the court. He had to throw the screen.
Michael with the Wizards.
Yeah, and yeah, he's phenomenal, and I just think he's energized. I kind of felt it was very interesting early in the week when they played the Mavs, and everybody brought this up as the Luka going in to get the rematch. He was going to get the numbers. I think the props were so. They were high, but I don't know how they. I think they split. But at the end of that game, LeBron ran to the locker room and left it for Luka. And I thought that was an interesting, telling sign of. I watched LeBron. LeBron's not going to sit there and talk to him, talk about the Lakers.
Yeah.
Nope. Got right out of there. Played hard on both ends. Game was close a little bit. Then it got away from the Dallas. And I just felt like maybe he's seeing that this guy is this good. He's a probably good guy to be around. They're embracing themselves. This is their chance to win. And maybe this is LeBron's last dance.
Yeah.
Maybe they think that if they get to the
He
playoffs
does
and he
seem real
plays
happy.
everything.
Sorry to step on you there. He does seem very happy. I mean,
Yeah,
the interviews you see with him post game, whether it's a bunch of guys around his locker or yesterday after that went over the Clippers, he's on ESPN, and you're thinking, have you ever seen a guy happier to do his job than
right.
LeBron James?
Yeah,
He's got all the money in the world. I mean, to compete at that high level at 40 is it's beyond impressive. I mean,
yeah,
I know people like to get into that greatest of all time. I don't know that you can ever make a definitive conclusion on who was actually the greatest of all time in any sport. But I mean, if you don't include this guy, if you're Skip Bayless, you're flat out of your mind, or
mhm.
you're just trying to throw a bunch of clickbait out there. All right. So you like the Timberwolves tonight? And no, not
Portland.
the Timberwolves, the
Portland
Trailblazers tonight.
Yeah.
Trailblazers in the NBA. Anything else?
Yeah,
uh,
the
going on?
rivalry's back. Tonight is down here for the ice hockey. It's the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Um, you know, Tampa Bay's been the kryptonite for Florida. They've struggled with them in series. Know they have to get through it. All the big Panther fans know that Tampa's tough. Chook's not playing, so maybe that Hagel Chook thing that they've battled in that fight there might take a little bit of backstep to rivalry. Florida's minus 1.25, and I've been banging my head against the wall, knowing I might go to the game or not. But I kind of like Tampa in this spot just because they're a dog and because they've had their number. So 3 in a row, Florida don't like to bet teams are going to streak. They won 3 in a row and look good doing it. Were great Saturday against Calgary.
Yeah,
I think they outshot them 45-30 with 17 or 20. It was just end to end. It was just the Panthers just controlled everything, and Bobrovsky was good. And it would have been 9-0 if it wasn't how good the goalie played for Calgary. So with all that said and done, and lean to Florida, I'm going to go the other way and say Tampa's plus the 105. Take an even money bet. Don't lose any juice. Take them plus 105 and take a chance that Tampa's played pretty well, and that's the nemesis, and that they're going to come down here and beat us.
all right. That's what I love about you is you'll be in the stands there. Nice seats, by the way, right behind the goal.
Yeah, yeah,
Lower bowl. I mean, you don't have to go schlepping on some escalator and hope that it keeps working while the masses pile in there. There's good momentum and reason for the fans to be sparked up as the team has become good and the franchise has become solid. Front office, this Bill Zito guy, the general manager,
yeah,
orchestrates yet another move as he gets this guy
yeah.
Seth Jones from the
Yeah,
Chicago
Jones.
Blackhawks shore up what he considered to be a little bit of a vulnerable spot there among defensemen,
Yeah,
and ships a goalie, Spencer Knight, that had shown some promise in the
yeah,
process, but not afraid to make the bold move. Unlike certain other, I mean, I'm sure fans of their local teams, you wish that your guy, had the fortitude to go ahead and pull maneuvers that actually end up helping the club. Not everything's going to work, but at least the guy's willing to make moves.
right.
So yeah, I mean, but you're the only guy in the crowd there that is rooting and has money on the other team.
Yeah. Didn't
This,
work the other night with Edmonton, but
yeah, you got the Oilers, and when
yeah,
got that clinching goal, the fourth goal, you were the one guy that was ready. Hey, let's go.
yeah. The fun part about being with a guy who's got great seats, who fortunate's in my life as a positive, and lets me go with him, is, I when he called me last minute to go see Edmonton, I was like, Connor McDavid live again.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is just on another plateau, and I advise any hockey fan, even if you aren't, if you want to see a player, he might be the fastest and best thing on skates that I've ever seen. So I think watching Edmonton in the playoffs, looking at that, knowing how good he is. But the Panthers got their number to beat him in Game 7 and beat him 4-3 the other night. But yeah, I go to the game and want to be happy either way. So I root for the Panthers, even though I don't care. I don't put much money on the game, if any.
All right. So
And it's just like that. But you just kind of look at trends and see things, and watching teams win, it never looks as obvious
Tampa
as
Bay's been hot. They're on fire, I think.
yeah. Yeah.
They
So
fired off. I don't know if this was sustained because I didn't follow
yeah.
their scores over the weekend, but
Mhm.
they had won 6 in a row, and we're starting to really cook with John Cooper, who is a coach that he had the Canadian national team, but always seems to be a very distinguished guy. The bad blood, too, between the two organizations, I believe to be legitimate going back historically to the very entry of the Lightning into the league. I think they came in. Did they come in the same year or the year after the Panthers? Somewhere in that area.
Yeah, around the same time. Yeah.
It's the only in-state rivalry. I mean, you still have Florida State and Florida in football. I don't know that you have it as much with University of Miami teams, but there's no real rivalry between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Marlins
No.
in this state. The 3 football teams, no great excitement when
Yeah.
Dolphins play Tampa Bay or either team plays
No.
Jacksonville. So this would be it. This is the only one where there's so-called bad blood being spilled.
Yep.
So all right. So you gave us the Trailblazers, the Panthers. No, the Lightning in the Panther game. Anything else, Mike
Yeah,
Jones?
we're gonna look at the big game in college hoops tonight. Now, I'm gonna put you to the test here, Jeff.
Okay.
When's the last time Kansas in a conference game was a 9.5 point underdog? I don't know that I don't know that I remember it.
Yeah, centuries ago.
Right. So now they got used
when
to
Wilt was there, maybe. No,
right. Yeah.
he would have never been an underdog.
Right. So now you look at them where, okay, they're going to Houston. Watched a little bit of Houston. So they gave out the first half in the Houston game against Cincinnati, where I'm down 16-10 with 10 minutes to go in the half. If it was like, actually, I think it was like 10-4 with like 10 minutes, no one could score. And the next thing you know, I turn off the TV. Well, that's a loser. And I turn it back on, and I'm up 8 with 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, wow, this is how this game happens. And you see that Houston can clamp down and defend. This is an interesting game for Bill Self and Kansas. I think this is really the dial that they have to push here to say, can we compete? We were ranked in the top 10 preseason. We have a ton of talent. Everybody thinks we have the best talent in the conference. This is the game that I think if you want to put yourself up against where the tournaments are going to go, this is the Houston would be one of these teams that will be close to a 1 seed and will be, the barometer to where you think that Kansas needs to be. I like Kansas tonight plus the 9.5. I'll take my chances.
Taking the points.
I'll take my chances. A low-scoring game as usual with these teams. Kansas got some athletes. Kansas will be able to do some things one-on-one that maybe Cincinnati couldn't do. Cincinnati got into some foul trouble where the 2 best players were out in the first half. I think that led to the cover. And I think this is Bill Self's challenge. Yeah. Can this team play? And this is the game right before the conference tournament that will be the dial for them to say, okay, let's do it. So I'm going to take my chances. May not win, but they'll cover.
Kansas with the points. The Trailblazers in the NBA and the Tampa Bay Lightning in hockey. Big Gunner podcast. When's that happen?
Tomorrow, Big Gunner podcast, talk about the hopefully 3 winners, but who knows what happens. And we'll give you a little Giant update. We had the combine, so we were very interested. A lot of rumors now that look like the great Aaron Rodgers might be of interest. I believe I've been saying this all along that the Giants should maybe look at 2 quarterbacks in the draft and bring in a free agent that might be able to start the season. A lot of people, a lot of bloggers don't really like it, but I say it because Brian Dable and Joe Shane have to save their jobs, and the quarterback has been what's lacking there. And I think when you get that desperate, you're going to make desperate measures. And I think the fan base doesn't want to see that. They want to, groom a young quarterback, but I think they got to win now just to save themselves. So that's where I see Aaron Rodgers fitting in.
All right, we got to run. You can join Mike there tomorrow. We'll be back with Bury Your Bookie tomorrow morning as well, right here on NoFilter.net and all of their other platforms. For Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. See you on tomorrow's edition of Bury Your Bookie.